You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to V.A.C. Roundtable number 74. Yes, we're up there already, and we're dealing with a unique situation that's happening. I'm originally from Louisiana. I have a special place in my heart for the South, and of course, we know the South has been struggling specifically with cannabis and cannabis access. And we now see that there is an initiative that is happening in the state of Arkansas, taking it forward by the people because they're not happy with what they have currently there in Arkansas. So because of that, we've invited Melissa Fults from the Arkansans for patient access to come state her case and what's going on in Arkansas, because it's is a special place in the South. My brother went through Living Skills Center there in Little Rock, Arkansas, so I've always had a very special place in my heart for Arkansas. But of course, they have not had the best laws regarding medical cannabis. So we see that the people want to change that. So we thank you, Melissa, for showing up today. And I'm going to basically kind of jump in and go right into our first question. This is a multi-tier question. How did you originally come to cannabis in the sense, and, how did you first hear about it? When did you realize that this is your calling that you wanted to get involved in? So again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for letting me be here. This is something that's very close to my heart. I'm very passionate about it. We began this journey in 2011. My son had been in a car accident at age 16, and immediately the doctors put him on opioids. He had been on them for 14 years. He was basically a zombie, and the doctors started telling him, "We're killing you. You have no lining left in your stomach will rupture, and you'll bleed out before you get to the hospital, and you'll die." And one of his doctors told him that if he would get rid of all the drugs that they had him on and go to marijuana, that he had a chance to live. So needless to say, my husband and I decided that we were going to find a way for him to be able to legally use marijuana. So we got involved with 3 college kids that had basically cut and pasted an amendment together. And we started working with them. 2012 election, we missed it by 1.75%. So we were really close. Then we came back in 14 and started another amendment, but we had no money. We didn't have enough volunteers, and we fell short on signatures. So immediately turned around, rewrote, and started back in for 2016. There were 2 amendments for 2016. The other amendment had a couple of $1 million. We had 5,000. So needless to say, we got sued, they won, and we got thrown off the ballot. So what we got stuck with was a very limited, non-inclusive amendment. And we have been working ever since to try to change that. And so this amendment, I think, is going to fix the medical program. It opens it up. There are so many patients that got left in the shadows. And we need to be inclusive. We need to bring everybody in that needs this. And it covers PTSD, but it doesn't cover anxiety, depression, autism, irritable bowel syndrome. I mean, so many things that people are still suffering from. They're still having to go to the black market and get whatever they can get off the street and still take a chance of being arrested because they're breaking the law because they don't have a medical marijuana card. So it's been a long journey, but we're still here.
Well, persistence is key, especially in the world of activism, and then to add into that, working specifically in the South is a its own challenge, specifically around its own significant challenges, specifically around drug policy. One of our council members has a follow-up question. Council member Laughter.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. And Melissa, thank you for joining us this evening in your time zone. I'll leave it to you whether you want to answer my question, but as a patient myself, I can't help but ask, were you able to find, was your son able to kick opioids, and is he able to enjoy the benefits of marijuana today?
You would not even recognize, if you had known my son before, you would not even recognize him now. He not only was able to get off of all the opioids, the day he threw everything away, he was on 90 milligrams of oxycodone, 75 milligrams of Valium. Of course, Phenagrin, he had to take 5 times a day because of what it was doing to his stomach. The strongest muscle relaxers they make, an antidepressant, and a sleeping pill. That was his daily prescription. Plus, it wasn't never enough because it got worse and worse and worse. And then he added alcohol onto it. And y'all know the drill. It's just a roller coaster of up and down and up and down and up and down. And so when he threw all of his pills away, I was freaking out because we were trying to, take him down a little bit at a time so he didn't have the issues. And he finally just said, I can't do this anymore. And he had all of his bottles opened up and he called me into the bathroom and he just dumped them. And I was freaking out. And it was probably the worst 3 weeks of my life. He lost 30 pounds in those 3 weeks. It was horrible. But now he went back to school because he never even graduated because, as I said, he had the accident in 16. He went back to night school, got his high school diploma. He was valedictorian in his night class. He went on to go to college. He got his bachelor's in psychology, and next month he will graduate with a master's in social work and with the intentions of working with veterans with PTSD to help them. He doesn't touch anything anymore. He doesn't even use marijuana anymore. The strongest thing he takes right now is an ibuprofen. But he says, Mom, I'm one pill away from being right back where I was. And he's a father now. He has 2 children, and he's an amazing father. And he just got a job starting in the end of May at UAMS. He's going to work there for a while to get the experience before he can go to work at the VA. But that's his ultimate goal, is to go to work for the VA and work with veterans with PTSD. And he doesn't look like your typical social worker. He's a big old brawny guy with a big full beard and tattoos all over him. It was really weird. The social work classes, the professors really tried to kick him out of the classes because they said he didn't look the part. And he said, I look the part for the people I want to help. So that's his ultimate goal, and he's doing amazing.
Thank you for that, Melissa. That's a great story.
It really is. I mean, he's a miracle.
Wow, that is quite a journey. Sorry you had to endure that to arrive here. But it sounds like it was a journey for him worth exploring, and one that I'm glad that he has benefited from.
He really has. And even though everything he went through was horrible, I think it's made him a better person and made it where he can understand what so many people are going through that have been through the trauma, are trying to put their lives back together, have gone through the roller coaster of alcoholism and drug addiction. And I think it's made him a better person. And I think it'll make him a better therapist.
As well as a better father.
Yes.
All right. Next up will be Leslie with our next question.
Yes. What does the cannabis landscape currently look like in Arkansas? And what are the key sticking points at this time?
Right now, medical cannabis has only 17 qualifying conditions. Thank goodness PTSD is one of those, but if a veteran can't get diagnosed with PTSD, then he's out in the cold. You can only get a certification from a medical doctor or a doctor of an osteopathic doctor. There is no home grow. We only have 40 dispensaries, and some of our patients have to drive as much as 2 hours to get to their medicine. And it's really an issue to me. And plus, you have to renew your card every single year. And if you're on disability and you're on a fixed income of say $1,100, $1,200 a month, by the time you pay your rent, your food, your utilities, and all of that, you don't have any money left. And the state expects you to get a new certification every year, which you're looking at $100 to $300 to a doctor, depending on the doctor. And then you have to pay the state $50 for your card. And we want to stop that. We want to make it a 3-year card. And the state is not allowed to charge you that $50 charge. Plus, you will now be able to get a card from an APRN, a physician's assistant, or even a pharmacist, which will make a huge difference. And your caregiver can give you a certification for any condition that they feel will be beneficial to you. So anxiety, depression, all of these other things can now be brought into the fold. You can now be legal. You can now have a card that protects you. And you, once this passes, you will be able to grow 7 mature plants and 7 seedlings. So people will even be able to grow their own medicine.
And that's something we support greatly, is the ability to home grow. The option is there. That growth therapy is something we have found to be, as veterans, quite beneficial, especially when you're going through an illness or struggling. Bringing something to life and sustaining it is something quite beneficial for not only the human, but also the plant. I think the plant also benefits and understands and listens. Next up will be Councilmember Michael Growitz.
Thanks, Etienne. Thanks, Melissa, so much for joining us. It's really fascinating to hear, what's going on the, on the inside in Arkansas. I'm very much supportive. I'm in southwestern Virginia, so we're not all that far apart, both in distance and in sort of medical marijuana struggle. Cannabis has gotten a little easier relatively over the last couple of years here, but it was an uphill battle, straight uphill for forever. And going back forever, it's interesting. Back in 1996, when we were working on medical cannabis, sort of the pioneering effort of Dennis Perone, military veteran out there in San Francisco with his Prop 215, campaign that was successful. One of the biggest opponent sort of, I don't know, statements or talking points was that, well, this is all just to legalize marijuana. And I find that really ironic given the history, because since 1996, and especially since 2013, I guess it was, when we first started setting up adult regulated access programs, the adult regulated access programs have done more to dismantle the medical marijuana programs than help them. So, given that background, this question, how has your work and the fight in medicinal cannabis in Arkansas been affected by efforts to create adult regulated access to cannabis in Arkansas and around the country?
Well, to me, and from other people that I've spoken to in other states, if you don't have a strong medical program and then you bring rec in, it destroys the medical program. And contrary to what many people believe, which y'all understand, the highest THC is not always the best answer. I know that I have anxiety and I have a lot of depression. And I know if I get the wrong strain and it's too strong, it just sends me, off the ledge. And so my biggest fear, if they brought in recreational without protecting the medical, was that they would move to only the highest THC strains and not protect the patients and not give the strains that patients need the most. Because as you know, you have to find the right strain, and it's especially good to find one that's a balance of THC and CBD, especially if you have anxiety or depression. And so bringing recreational in before the medical was really protected was my biggest fear. And I see what you're talking about, because I have watched these other states that brought in recreational and didn't protect the medical program, and it hurt patients. And that has been my fight all along, is to make sure the patients are protected before anybody else has access.
Thank you for that. Next up will be Council Member Laughter.
Yes. Sort of feels like you already answered this question, Melissa, with your.
Oh, I have more answers for that.
One. But I'll give you another shot at telling us why it's a problem. Why did you fight so hard against the recreational amendment of 2022? Then, where to go?
Well, I actually had a recreational medical improvement in 2020, and then when COVID hit, we were set to make our goal and to be on the ballot, and then COVID hit and we had to pull it. I didn't feel it was right for me to ask people to be out trying to gather signatures and taking the chance of risking their lives. It's not that I had a problem with recreational as such, but the recreational that was in 2022 was horrible. I don't know if y'all read it, but it created a terrible monopoly. There was no home grow. There were really no protections for patients. Big whoop, they made it where patients didn't have to pay taxes. And that was the only protection they had for patients. They did not increase the patients as far as their qualifying conditions. They didn't they didn't do anything to help patients in it. As a matter of fact, everything in it would have destroyed the medical program. So as hard as I had fought for marijuana legalization, I had to be against it. And of course, everybody was shocked because, that's all I've preached is marijuana legalization. But I just felt like it was the wrong thing for everybody, even for recreational. So I didn't have a choice but to stand up and fight against it.
Well, thank you for that earnest and honest explanation. That is, we were not intimately involved in that process, and so these are things we watch from afar, and your clarification helps bring us to a greater understanding. I did read it, so I understood why the fight. And when there was, just the simple fact that there is no home grow is enough for many of us to say, all right, that doesn't work. As long as it's got homegrown access, and we know only a small percentage will do so, but that freedom and having that access to do so is still so key and important. It was worth doing so, and I know you had to accept your own slings and arrows of outrageous fortune by actually, taking that stand to do so. But having principles is, part of how we grow up in the South is you have to stand up for them once you're back up against the wall, and your back was against the wall. So
I
it led
wasn't
you.
very popular with the people who wanted recreational. I promise you that.
Well, yeah, it's not a popularity contest. It's about
No,
what's
it's
right and
not.
what's wrong. And
It's
so
not.
you did the right thing and you stood up, and now it's led to this change that's happening now. So, which leads us into our next question. So, our friend from Arkansas, Councilmember Peggy Jones. Councilmember.
I beg you.
Thank you, Melissa, for joining us. It's great to meet you finally. My question is, considering all the other bills that have been attempted to pass in state Congress here, how is the bill that you're supporting different involving the public? And what rights does this bill provide that the other bills in the past neglected? Which you've covered some of this, but for clarification.
This bill to me is, it kind of makes it kind of makes it wreck light, I guess you could say. But to me, it made such a difference because it addresses what none of the others addressed. Now ours did in the past, but like I said, we didn't get on the ballot and we got kicked off the ballot. But this bill covers all the truly important things to make sure that patients, if they want to grow, and you're right, if not a lot of people are going to grow, but if they want to, they should have the right to do that. And especially our veterans, you know, Les and I have talked about this so many times. And, you know, they fought for us to have rights, and yet they don't have the rights. And so this covers everything. It doesn't cover expungement and it doesn't cover full legal, but it does protect just about anybody who has a medical condition that they want to use cannabis to treat. They also, like I said, they get to grow if they choose to grow. They don't have to pay for this card every year. They only have to do it every 3 years. And another thing that this bill does is the law that we have now, if you come to visit in Arkansas, you have to get a temporary card. And Peggy, if you've had to deal with the health department getting your medical card, some people are lucky and it's slower and they get their card within a week. But we have some people that have waited 2 months to get their card. And so you have someone coming from out of state, especially someone who cannot go without their medication. They come in and apply for a temporary card. They're long gone before they get their temporary card. So they have, the whole time they're in Arkansas, they either have to use their medicine illegally, or they just have to do without. And that to me is unacceptable. So now if you come from out of state and you have a card, you can go to any dispensary and use it just like you were in your own state. And so I think that was really huge. Another thing that it does, that it fixes this program, is right now the legislature has it set up that if you're a caregiver, you have to have a federal background check. We have, I believe, 385 minors that have medical cannabis cards here, and their parents are their caregivers. Those parents have to have a federal background check to treat their child. There is no other medication anywhere where you have to have a federal background check to treat your child. So that's been taken away. You know, once this passes, you can be your child's caregiver and you don't have to do a federal background check, because, you know, it may be somebody that made a mistake and they have a record, and that could keep them from treating their own child. And I just felt that was one thing that we absolutely had to fix.
Peggy, you have a follow-up?
Yes. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Melissa. I actually do have a question. I've spoken to holistic doctors in the state, those that do acupuncture medicine or chiropractic medicine. They still have to get degrees and they still can prescribe holistic medicine. Will this change in the bill allow them to also be prescribers of it?
Unfortunately, no. The industry financed it, so they made the final decisions. My choice and what I tried to do was to make it that any caregiver who could write a prescription should be allowed to write a certification for cannabis. They decided that it was too open and people would not be happy with it. So they cut that out. They did give me APRNs and PAs and pharmacists, but as hard as I fought, and we fought for over a year over it, and that was one thing they did not relent. Now, and I'll tell you now, there will be a recreational written once this passes. Well, it's already written. That will be filed, and that will be the case. Any caregiver who can write a prescription will be allowed to write a medical cannabis card. But as hard as I fought, that was one of the few things I didn't get. I know.
Leslie?
Yeah, Melissa, that's so sad to hear. I mean, that's so much like they're putting holistic and herbal medicine in the concept of recreation and not treating it as medicine. It's sad. I mean, that kind of emphasizes your fact that you have to have a strong medical program before a rec program, or the rec program's just going to wipe it out. I mean, I discovered that in North Carolina as I expanded my company into North Carolina from Colorado, is that North Carolina didn't have a chance to establish the, in my eyes, the medical side of it, of educating consumers about all these non-psychoactive cannabinoids. And, you know, all of a sudden the market got flooded with the synthetic THCs and the THCA flower. And it just took all the attention away for the opportunity to educate people about the medicine side of it. It's a shame.
I tell you, I have banged my head against the wall these last 13 years till it's just, you want to grab people, and especially the legislators, and just shake them. Just wake up. But it's, you know, we're not going to give up. We're not going to give up until there's a strong medical program, till we do get a recreational that keeps the medical program strong and offers expungement, because no one should have a criminal record because they used a plant, especially when they're trying to heal their bodies.
And we completely agree with that assessment fully. Leslie, then you actually have our next question.
Oh, good deal. So, Melissa, how do you see this bill helping veterans in the state of Arkansas?
For one thing, so many veterans that I talk to, just they want to grow their medicine so badly. You know, they want to be able to watch their plants grow, harvest their plants. And I mean, it's like Les and I talk about, and he said, Melissa, you just don't understand how therapeutic that is. And I said, well, that's why I'm fighting for you to be able to do that. But being able to grow, some veterans have had a difficult time finding someone to write their certification. They can't get it at the VA, and a lot of doctors will not write a certification. This way, they will have a better chance to find someone to write a certification. Most APRNs that I've talked to are so excited about this being on the ballot and hoping it passes, because they are so supportive of medical marijuana. And I think it'll make it easier for veterans to be able to get their card.
Leslie has another follow-up.
So with all of this in mind, what do you think the next steps are?
Well, once we get our signatures and get this passed in November, as I said, there's already a recreational written. It's the one that I wrote for 2022. I will make a few changes on it. Number one, I'll increase the number of plants, and I'll increase the amount of plants and product for expungement. But that is my next goal. I know that if I don't do it, or if people that I trust don't do it, the industry will do it, and they will do whatever is best for them, not best for people in Arkansas. So I will work to change that, work to get expungement done, open it up, but at the same time, in that amendment, it protected patients and it protected the medical program. And that is my biggest concern. Recreational is not so much my ultimate goal as far as that's the most important thing. The most important thing to me is to make sure that patients that need it, whether it be PTSD or pain, and because I know so many of you come home with extreme pain, with injuries, that taking opioids and taking opioids and taking opioids makes you such a zombie, you can't enjoy life. And if you can use cannabis instead of all those things, you actually have a life. You can function. You can interact with your family. You can be happy. So to me, the recreational is not so much a priority for me, except for the fact that if I write it, I know that the patients will be protected first. There will be an expungement, and it will be a better program for everybody concerned, not just the industry.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Camelford Lifestyle Shop, open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Camelford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Camelford, Ontario.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Leslie?
Yeah, Melissa, do you think there's an importance between, or differentiation between natural cannabis and synthetic cannabis?
Oh, absolutely. You know, when we first started this in 2011, all these doctors came up, well, you don't need marijuana. We have Marinol. Well, Marinol is a synthetic. There is nothing in it that has healing properties. There are no cannabinoids. There is nothing in it natural, so it's not going to do the same thing as cannabis does. You know, our bodies are made up of cannabinoids. Cannabis is made up of cannabinoids. When you take that into your body, it connects with your cannabinoids and helps heal your body. Marinol does nothing but help your pain. And that's not what so many patients use it for. So many patients use it to heal their body. So there's no comparison between the synthetic and the actual natural plant.
Peggy had kind of a question. I think I can formulate this. We have in California, I own and operate a medical cannabis dispensary, and we're able to do charitable giving, which is something we have been able to do, and one that is part of our state law. So please do consider in the future the availability to allow for Arkansas and Arkansas businesses to donate product for either low income or for free, so that they can donate it to veterans and other patients who are in need. Because you spoke earlier specifically to the cost. That's one of the things as a patient I understand, as well as I know that as a 100% disabled veteran, I have a certain amount of money I am given each month, and that has to meet all my expenses. And the cost of cannabis is very high, and people cannot afford it. So please, if you can, keep in mind in the future to find a way to write into Arkansas law, so that those people who, as you're talking to, not only need it medically, they also need the financial relief in the time. As we know, congratulations, you've got stage 4 cancer. Now you have to deal with all the other realities that come with it. Having access to free or low income access cannabis is really helps out people at a greater need, because currently they're already having to decide between my pills or my food or my rent, and that on top of that. So we are kind of unique in the United States that do that. I would love to see that happen potentially in Arkansas, so that those that can't afford, that are meet the criteria of low income by these standards within the state, then can then meet access. Here in California, we have veterans groups that get together, like Compassionate Cannabis, Weed for Warriors, Veterans Cannabis Coalition. They all have areas where they actually go to different businesses and get donated cannabis, and then go to a dispensary and then distribute it out of the dispensaries to the patients directly. So just wanted you to keep that in mind.
We actually, with the one that I wrote that I will resubmit, I've moved all the taxes. The taxes will go to pre-K and to public schools, and a big portion of it will go to pay for veterans medicine, to pay for their cards, and for low income and veterans to be able to get their cannabis. That tax dollars will pay for their medicine for low income and for veterans. That was very important to me, because there are so many low income people and so many veterans. Y'all served our country. You've come home broken, hurt, and trying to put your lives back together. And then, like you said, then you walk into a dispensary and they're asking $200 for medicine. So that was one thing. I think I put like 30% of the sales tax would go to veterans and low income. So that is already, once I get that done and we can get that done, that will be in there to protect you.
Outstanding. We appreciate that greatly. Next up will be Councilmember Laughter.
Yeah, Melissa, you're a great example of a mom who's fighting for her child, and you've set a wonderful example. I'm wondering, would you be willing to talk about what the folks who might view this, particularly in Arkansas, but in other states as well, to do to prevent influencers from outside your state funding and preventing the kind of laws that you would like to see? What can all of us do, not just you, a hero, but all of us. Help us out.
That's a good question. And this time around, I don't think we'll have as much opposition. Now, I know when I do the next one, which is going to be recreational and of stronger medical, they're going to come at us from every direction. The only thing I know is what we've done so far. I mean, they have fought us tooth and nail from the very get-go. You know, this was the devil's drug, and nobody needed it, and it wasn't really for medicine. It was just to get high. So we have fought this time and time again. And even though back in 2011, we had so much opposition, the benefit for being here in Arkansas is we have the most amazing volunteers that you will ever want to meet. They have been right with us ever since 2011. And even though people put a lot of money in it, you would be surprised at how much influence the average person has. You know, we brought veterans in to talk to the legislators and to interview and to do big rallies where we brought veterans in. We brought parents with children with seizure disorders. We brought in people that stayed in constant extreme pain, that have known that medical cannabis will help their pain levels much better than all the opioids. They're able to be better citizens, better parents, better spouses, and so I think that is a huge way that you counterattack these groups that come in, this what is it, STOP, I think it is, that come in, START, what are they? START, whatever they're called, that come in and they're so anti-cannabis. And of course they came in against us, but we overpowered them. The voice of people sometimes is much, much stronger than money. The recreational last time spent $20 million. We spent $400. Not 400 million, $400. And we were able to kill a bill that would have been horrible for Arkansas. So the way that we counteract it and fight it is we, the people, get out there and fight it.
All right. Peggy has a follow-up, which is one which is quite important.
If you know this, you may not know this, Melissa, but do you perchance know why our governor has formed a group in opposition of the cannabis?
She's against anything. I mean, she's against everything. She is probably the most horrible governor we have ever had as far as the people. I mean, even the Republicans are getting really fed up with her. The things that she's doing and the things that she's trying to do are horrible. I think she's afraid of all of us, to be very frank. Not only do we have the marijuana this time around, but we have the FOIA bill, the abortion bill, the period project, the school bill, and all of those things she's terrified of. She doesn't want people to be able to question why she spent $19,000 for a lectern. She doesn't want anybody to question how she got to go to the Super Bowl and stay in these nice fancy hotels and have box seats and all of this. She didn't want any of that. She didn't want the cannabis to be better. But you know what? She didn't like us using marijuana, but she sure likes our money. And they took the tax dollars that they were using was going to UAMS. Now it's supposed to go to school luncheons for children, for low-income kids to be able to eat lunch for free, because so many of them get 2 slices of bread and a little thin piece of cheese. And that's just wrong on so many levels. Well, they did this and it sounded really good, But the schools apparently have to jump through so many hoops to get that money. And if they don't get through the hoops in time, well, that money all goes back to the general fund, which gives her the ability to cut taxes for the rich and screw us poor people. And I think that's her biggest thing. As a matter of fact, we're trying to join together all of the initiatives right now, and all of us work together to get everybody on the ballot. It's kind of like no man left behind. We all make it, or none of us will make it. And it's, excuse my word, well, I'm not going to say it because this is going to be in public, but we had a real nice name for what we were going to call our group in the background on what we're saying to her and what we're sending her. A great big finger. But I think that's it. I think she doesn't have control of it, and her far, far, far right wing, ultra super religious thing, she just thinks marijuana is horrible, and she just doesn't know. She's ignorant.
Well, she also knows, she's quite wise in the ways of how things work. She knows that cannabis on the ballot is going to bring a lot of people to the ballot box. Already was going to, with the, is already going to be with, women's health issues already going to be dominating, the issue. And as you stated, there's quite a few others, but it's also a testament to your success, as well as that, your enemies are, already preparing against you, which is a compliment to your hard work. So I don't think you have the truth on your side, and, you just stick to that. You'll be just fine.
We're actually bringing more and more legislators to our way of thinking. When we first started this, oh my gosh, back in 2011, the legislators they were just in arms, the fact that we were trying to get medical marijuana passed. And once we passed it in 2016, when we went to the legislature to fight for the rules and regulations in 2017, I would walk in the room and it was like, they would get their, make their crosses that is coming in. But believe it or not, I get more and more calls every day with legislators, and thank y'all, because the veterans have made the difference. The veterans call their legislators and they ask them hard questions about medical marijuana and why things aren't this way and why things aren't that way. And more of those legislators are calling me and saying, okay, I have these veterans, how can I help them with this? Which is huge, because they were the very people that would stand up and testify against me in the legislative committees on me trying to get rules and regulations to protect this program. So we're making progress. It's slow. It's not nearly as much as I would like, but we are making progress. And I think the more we're out there in their faces, the more they're going to realize that this is what Arkansas needs. And like I said, we're not going to give up until we have what we want.
And that's how it should be. Councilmember Crowitz, he has a question.
Yeah, thanks, Etienne. I had sort of a follow-up just based on your, basically everything, your life experiences and how you got to where you are and what you're doing. It raises a question for me. Sort of think about it like mental engineering for a second. But a lot of the work that we've been doing as veterans in the cannabis space has been geared towards the day when the pharmacy at the VA will eventually handle cannabis. And, wouldn't it suck if that's the day that the doctors at the VA decide to start learning about cannabis, sort of driving our agenda. But thinking about that, the cannabis products that are going to show up and are showing up in the pharmacy are a trickle, if you want to call it a trickle. In all this time, there's only one and potentially another and maybe another, so let's say 3 products in the pipeline realistically that are going to be available in the next foreseeable future, just as a off the cuff estimate. That's not enough. That's if you look at the cannabis products that are available in a good dispensary, maybe there's 150, 200 products. A lot of that's just duplication or different varieties of the same thing. But let's say there's 50, really individually different, substantially different products that may give a patient different results. How do you see us sort of navigating this? Because of cannabis being illegal for so long, we can't just do what we should do with it, which is treat it like any other herbal medicine. It doesn't quite fit in the FDA model, but then it doesn't quite just fit in the no model FDA model either. So we're struggling a little bit, frankly, to try to figure out how to handle cannabis medicine in the future for veterans in the big picture, millions of veterans, especially in our VA system. So anyway, just with that big setup for such a short question, what do you kind of see for how this might evolve?
That's it. It's kind of, excuse me, it's kind of a double-edged sword. My biggest fear is once the pharmaceutical companies get a hold of it, they will destroy it. I mean, to be real honest, they will. Now, I know there was a company, GW Pharmaceuticals, that did some wonderful work. And I actually, when I retired, I took all of my 401k and rolled it into stock. And I invested everything in GW Pharmaceuticals because they were creating medications made from the plant. Everything was natural in it. They spun it down, they put it in spray bottles and made a true medical cannabis product. Unfortunately, they got bought out. I don't know I never have been able to find out what happened to them. I don't know if their product is still on the market. But my biggest fear about the pharmaceutical companies doing it is that they will do more in the line of Marinol rather than true natural cannabis. My hope is that it will become federally legal and the VA will be able to offer a dispensary, for veterans where they can get their medication for free through the VA. That is my hope. My hope is that the federal government will finally quit fighting. And, the Republicans have a great bill. The Democrats won't support it. The Democrats have a great bill. The Republicans won't support it. And then when they get a bipartisan bill, the outliers get all bent out of shape and won't support it. So my hope is that the federal government will finally open their eyes, legalize it, where the VA can actually say, we're going to create a dispensary for our patients. And they'll be able to come and get their medicine just like they get any other of their medications. As a veteran, without all the hassles and all the extra expense and the legalities of it. That's my hope, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the pharmaceutical company will be wonderful and create a great product, but I don't trust the pharmaceutical companies very much. Did that answer it?
Michael says yes. Yeah. You can just also imagine the funny names they're going to come out with it. It already has funny names, but they'll just come up with just abhorrent, just names alone. All right, Councilmember Jones, you've got to follow up.
Yes, my follow-up is, I don't know if our current laws allow for this, but I've always found it kind of odd how the cannabis that they confiscate, they burn, or they did in the 80s and 90s, and I don't know if they still do it, but that seems like a waste of man-hours and a waste of a natural plant that will decompose and turn back into soil if taken into the wild. My question to you is, are there any contingency plans to see that if they do bring in cannabis or natural plants from this point on, if perchance, since we have all these national parks and we have chronic wasting diseases and other diseases in mammals, since cannabis works for all animals, mammals across the board, can we see if there's a way to dump the cannabis back out in the wild so maybe it'll start helping our wildlife rehabilitate as well?
That's a good question. Now, in the amendment that I've been trying to write for later for the next cycle, one thing I put in there is Gary and I have been touring a lot of the cultivation facilities. We wanted to see how they were processing it, what they were doing to make sure it was safe and all that. And in every one of them, we would see these huge bags of trim and leaves and stuff being thrown out. And I was like, what do y'all do with that? And they said, we have to destroy it. And I was like, that's ridiculous. I have a dairy goat farm. I'm a little farmer, and I have goats, I have horses, I have donkey, all those things. And I was like, why can't we take that waste and turn it into feed pellets to feed our livestock? I think it was Oklahoma. There was a group that did some research where they did just that and said the animals had a higher protein level. They didn't have all of the chemicals in their system from the food. The animals were healthier. Everything about it was positive. And when I first started talking to them, when we were getting this amendment done, one thing I was trying to get to do is for them to allow to do it. And they were like, oh, no. Our government doesn't want you to do that. And I was like, well, our government doesn't want us to have marijuana, period. That's why we're doing a ballot initiative. So, if we're going to make them mad, let's just make them a little madder. But they wouldn't go for that. But the next amendment will have that in there, because I want to see that waste, like you said, instead of being put in the dumps and just create more waste, take that. I mean, look at the businesses that would create. You would have a whole new industry creating these feed pellets for animals from the waste from the products that the cannabis creates. And it's a win-win for everybody.
I have a Michael Krautz. I think you can tell this story. We had a friend of ours who actually raised livestock and actually chickens with hemp, and then entered them into a. Go ahead, Michael. Tell the story.
Yeah, this was one. I wish Al Byrne was here because he's a little bit closer to it, our fellow council member. But evidently, they fed these chickens exclusively cannabis seeds. It wasn't just that it was a portion of their food. They were hemp-fed chickens, and they brought them to not just any chicken, barbecue taste test contest, but law enforcement oriented taste test contest. And it didn't just win, it blew everybody's minds how much better this chicken was than everybody else's chicken. So, it's probably not that hard to come up with really, really good tasting chicken by feeding them really good food. But the fact that it's hemp seed and that it was remarkably good chicken, I think makes the story that much better. And there is a video somewhere of this. Evidently, the entire experiment is captured in a video somewhere. So hopefully our council will find that eventually and put it up.
If you find it, send it to me. I would love to watch it and show it to a few legislators. But, I mean, it does make sense. Yeah. It makes sense to use that product to have healthier animals. When I have to go buy feed, there are so many byproducts in it, and I hate it. But I don't have the room to grow, my own food for them.
Well, you also raise goats, correct?
Yes.
So they eat a protein feed, correct?
Well, it's mostly alfalfa. What I feed them is mostly alfalfa, corn, and different grains.
So, but if you were able to, hemp seed, once it's pressed down and made into cakes, that is very high protein. It also has the omega-3, 6, and 9. So all those in combination also make because some states are also lobbying to use its hemp seeds as a feed for animals. And of course, that was, if you go back to the 1930s and the 1937 act, when they were trying to actually make cannabis illegal, they actually used the birds singing as an excuse to keep hemp seeds legal. That if they stopped, they actually quoted saying if they took hemp seeds out of the bird seeds, the birds would stop singing. And out of that, they kept bird seeds fully exempted, and they're imported and steam sterilized until we had a U.S. hemp industry, and we imported them from China for the most part. So it is something that it could be very beneficial to, farmers like yourself, because you're able to raise a lean, happy goat on a very simple plant seed feed. I use here I'm not even pretending. I use sheep milk and goat yogurt because I find it better for me than necessarily others. So anything that you can do that's more natural that we can absorb as humans, the better. Right, you try to do that with your goat. So this is the same thing that by having just another actual resource, because when you're growing hemp, on average, if you're growing hemp properly, one plant can have anywhere from 1 to 3 cups of seed per plant when grown in the industrial methodologies where you're not separating the males from the females. So that's one reason why they've not been able to eradicate cannabis, is because they would come and spray it with all this weed killer, and all the seeds would, a ton of seeds would fall into the dirt, and it's not affected by the weed killer by that next summer when it comes around, and it's already, 30 feet high and all along the seed banks from Ohio all the way out to Oregon still to this day. So it's a real thing that
Yeah.
do not forget that when legalization happens, is the farmers can greatly benefit from the access to the seed feed. And that is actually, by seeing what this other particular state is doing, seems to be a new frontier and something, since you are a farmer, and that's part of something to keep your eye on in the future. So
Well, it's really funny. I was telling you about my son, and he started a equine therapy program at home. And I had gotten a horse. I'd saved a horse from a kill pen. And so he got the idea that he could save some of these horses and start an equine program for disabled kids and also troubled kids. And so he got several horses, and when he got them, I don't know if you've ever seen some of them that come from a kill pen, but if they've been there for a while, they're in horrible shape. They're skin and bones, they're sores on them, they're awful. And he would get one and he would bring it to me to fatten up and to get healthy. And we had worked on the hemp bill here in Arkansas, which the legislature completely destroyed. But we had made friends with some hemp farmers, and I was getting the pure concentrated hemp oil from just big jars of it from some of these hemp farmers. And I was taking like 1/4 of a cup of this pure hemp oil, mixing it with another oil and putting it on their food. It was unbelievable how quickly they healed, how quickly they started putting on weight. Their coats got gorgeous and healthy. They got healthy. It was unbelievable. And the only thing I was doing different from what my son was doing and what a few other people that had gotten horses from there were doing is the hemp, the concentrated hemp oil. And it was unbelievable how much better these animals got and how much quicker they got so much healthier by using the hemp oil. So I'm right there with you, and that will be part of the next bill.
all right, well, thank you very much. And I can't thank you enough for coming out tonight, Melissa. That's Melissa Fults with the Arkansans for Patient Access.
Thank you so much for letting me come.
Hey, this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. We appreciate what you're doing. and we hope that you'll come back and check with us in the future. Let us know how it goes and how things went, and hopefully we'll be celebrating. I would like to thank our council members, Peggy Jones, Michael Crowitz, Leslie Fries, and Wade Laughter, and of course, Melissa Fults. I'm Etienne Fontaine. I am your moderator for this evening once again. And this has been Roundtable number 74 for the Veterans Action Council with Melissa Fults and the Arkansans for Patient Access. So thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Melissa.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.